I've analyzed over 1,700 posts and audited more than 100 Instagram profiles in my career. And these are the 35 all-time biggest mistakes I see 84% of the people making. Most of these can be easily corrected with just a few small tweaks, but they can make a huge difference in the growth of your profile. So make sure you watch until the end because you might be surprised by a few of them. Alright, let's go. Make sure your feed looks somewhat cohesive. Use 3 or 4 colors, black and white. Use 3 fonts, one for headlines, one for body copy, and a decorative one to make the designs look more interesting. Use the same types of backgrounds. As you can see, I have 2 different options. And try and use similar design elements or style of photos for all of your posts. And make sure your feed conveys value. When someone lands on it, they have to immediately be convinced that they have a lot to gain if they follow you, just by looking at your feed for a few seconds. Don't post square slides. The right size is 1080 x 1350 pixels. Bigger slides will grab attention faster and you'll have more space for your content, and your posts will look less cluttered. Keep in mind that there is dead space on top and on the bottom. This part won't be seen on your feed, so make sure you're not putting anything important here. And keep the space around these borders clear, because whatever you put here will be cropped when your post is on your feed. Long headlines with too many words are a no-no. Make sure the text is large and the font is readable. Function over design is the key here, so stop using fancy fonts for headlines because they're hard to read. Your title slides should trigger curiosity or suspense. You want people to be so intrigued that they'll want to slide to the left or read the caption. You can have the best carousel in the world, but if the headline is not catchy, no one is going to swipe left. Bad line spacing makes the text hard to read, so make sure it's not too big or too small. I usually go for 1.5 or 2 depending on the font. Always align longer text to the left side, otherwise it's going to be really hard to read. If it's just a few words, it's okay to align to the center, but if it's a longer text, then stick to the left. Also, make sure that the text is not too small to read and that there's enough contrast between the text and its background. If the text is light, the background should be dark, and vice versa. There are free tools called contrast checkers online that calculate if your contrast is big enough. Underlining words, line breaks, and bullet points make the text more digestible, so make sure you incorporate them into your text as frequently as possible. You can also switch things up with bold and italic fonts. Make sure the post is not too cluttered. Remove most of the unnecessary elements. You want your point to come across, and these elements can be a distraction. You should also make sure that branding of your whole post is cohesive by using the same fonts and colors. Your graphics should also match the rest of your profile. And make sure that there's padding on all 4 sides. This creates balance and will make your design look more aesthetically pleasing. Stop putting too much text on the slide. The more text there is, the less chances are that people are going to read it. Keep it short and focus on one key idea on each slide. Don't give everything away in the beginning of the carousel. Try to add more information on each slide, but wait until the end to reveal the key point. Use your last slide as a call to action, either to follow, engage, or check out your products or services. You can also use this slide to introduce yourself. This will help you build a connection with your followers. And if you add a call to action, it should match the link. So if the call to action says "work with me," make sure the link is driving people to the page with your services, not your homepage. Illustrate your point with photos and elements, but make sure that there is still some white space on your slide. You don't want your slide to be too cluttered. It looks messy and unprofessional. And make sure your backgrounds are not too busy either. They should be simple and the focus should be on your text or photos. And don't use super fake looking stock photos. If the photo looks staged, avoid it. Add your own photos or find stock photos that look somewhat authentic. This will help your audience make a better connection with your brand. Another thing you should avoid is adding text over your photo. This is hard to read, so make sure that you either make space for the text or add a contrasting background under it. The first few characters of the caption should grab attention and get them to click "see more." So make sure your hook drives curiosity. Without a good hook, no one will click see more and read your caption, so it's by far the most important part. If your post is a carousel, keep the caption relatively short. We don't want to overwhelm your followers. Most of them will see the huge amount of info you're giving them and just scroll past. Don't write your captions in one paragraph. Use a line break every few sentences. And make sure you add keywords throughout your caption for SEO purposes. But don't overdo it. We still want the text to sound natural. Don't repeat the text you have on your slide in the caption. It's a waste of space, so put something more important here. Make sure that there is some value in the caption as well and have a call to action at the end. You should also avoid jargon, acronyms, and long fancy words. Your bio should be easy to understand by a broad audience. Jargon and acronyms will make it hard for everyone to understand your message, especially people outside your industry. And make sure you use some emojis to make things easier to read and fun. Use hashtags that are highly relevant to your post and industry, even if that means that you only come up with a few of them. Since the role of hashtags has changed in the past few years, hashtags now act as keywords on Instagram that help categorize your post and show it to the right people. So adding in irrelevant ones will only confuse the algorithm because we won't be giving it a clear signal on what the post is about. So it's better to add less hashtags and keep them highly relevant than throwing in irrelevant ones. And stop using the same set of hashtags for every post. Every post is different, so you should switch up your hashtags every time. Have a set prepared for each of your content pillars and customize them for each post by adding or removing a few hashtags, depending on what the post is about. Make sure that there is a mix of different types of hashtags, such as industry and post-specific hashtags. If you're a brick or mortar business, make sure to add hashtags with your location so that locals will be able to find you. This can include your neighborhood hashtags, city, area, or even country hashtags. You'll be surprised at how many people in your area look through local hashtags, so you don't want to miss the opportunity for them to find you. Make sure you have a mix of short and long hashtags. Long-tail hashtags, which consist of more than one word, are more specific and niche, and they typically have fewer posts related to them compared to broader, more generic hashtags, which are more popular. And don't spend too much time choosing hashtags. They're not as nearly as important as they were a few years ago. So have a few sets saved in your notes, customize them a little bit for each post, and that's it. There are far more important things for you to be focusing on. Alright guys, so these were the top post mistakes I see people making on their posts all the time. If you're interested in seeing the top 35 mistakes people make on their profiles, check out this video. I go even more into detail in my course, so if you're interested in growing your account, check it out and don't forget to like and subscribe if you like this video. See you in the next one. Bye!